out of nowhere, it felt like the Milwaukee Bucks and Phoenix Suns enter the picture, and a massive trade happens between the three teams. I think the 1A side of this trade, though, is Damian Lillard will join Giannis Antetokounmpo and compete with the Milwaukee Bucks this coming season out. First thoughts?
It's a massive deal. And you knew it was coming before training camp because Portland couldn't go into the new season with him still on the roster. It just wasn't going to work that way. All the whispers were that it was coming to a head. It was going to happen. And minutes before this trade came through, Shams released a tweet that the Raptors had acquired Damian
No
Lillard.
way.
So
Oh my God.
really, really tough moment for us fans. Would have been fascinated to see what the full package entailed there. But this trade is just as blockbuster. Massive that the Suns got involved, and there's so many different ways that you can pick apart this one. The overall trade is Lillard headed to Milwaukee, Portland receiving Drew Holiday, DeAndre Ayton, Tumani Kamara, and a 2029 first round Bucks pick and Bucks pick swap. And the Suns receive Yusuf Nurkic, Nasir Little, Keon Johnson, and Grayson Allen. Massive deal.
Yeah.
Damian Lillard, Giannis Antetokounmpo. I'd say that is top two duo in the NBA now. Just with
Based off last
Giannis
season.
the absolute prime of his career and Lillard being on the back end of his prime. You match that up against Murray Jokic. You match that up against Tatum Brown, LeBron Davis, Kawhi PG. Like, I put that Bucks duo in with anyone. And it's going to be so fascinating because Giannis has never had this level of player to play beside either. Yeah, really, really thrilling for Milwaukee fans because it instantly raises the ceiling of their team and also is a pretty significant move to try and keep Giannis happy after his comments a couple weeks ago about potentially leaving if the Milwaukee Bucks did not make a significant move.
I think if you're a Bucks fan and there's any hesitation or worry about this trade on the surface of giving up the 3 picks in the future, I think it's really smart on Portland's and a real win for them that they're able to put those picks 6 years from now. You think about Lillard being 33. You think about the physical style of Giannis's play. I don't know if there's ever been an athletic specimen quite like that. So you don't know what that's going to look like in his 30s. And it feels like a pretty good gamble on their end to have. So they have to pick swaps in 28 and 30 and the unprotected pick in 29. Pretty good chance at landing some top 10 picks there in those 3 years, depending on the state of Milwaukee. But you're a Bucks fan, you can't be mad at it after Giannis made those comments. It will be interesting to see how this folds, and I don't want to get ahead of myself and jump the gun saying like, now Giannis is staying, like this cements his career as a Buck. Like Lillard's 33 years old. Giannis, he'll be 34, soon turning 35 when Giannis has to make that decision. I'm not sure long term how enticing that is to get him to extend another 4 years, but a lot of that is probably going to depend on how this year goes. Nate Silver had a nice little quick write-up in response, just looking at some advanced stats, and found that like over the last 3 years, Lillard's offense has been so good that even though there is a regression in losing
Drew Holiday?
thank you. That like the defense loss or that advantage that Drew has over Lillard is not dwarfed, but diminished, outsized by the offensive advantage that Lillard brings. So advanced stats on the surface, this is going to be lightning in a bottle, dynamite, unstoppable. There's also something just really fun about thinking about the range of Lillard and like how that's going to like draw everyone a little more out and like what that'll do to open the paint. And Giannis is a great playmate. yeah, it's going to be such electric offense, and I think there's not a lot of knocks on Lillard defensively the way like some point guards have. Like it's not something he's heralded for.
Mm.
But I think when you take that type of player and slot them into a relatively strong defensive team, it's not going to be a weakness. It's not going to be something
Yeah.
easy to attack. And they've got a good system. Obviously, that system will have some changes coming with Adrian Griffin figuring out how he wants to run the show. But I think this is it's going to be a small defensive downgrade from specialist to average in an above average defensive team. The offense is going to be terrifying, and it's no surprise that on the betting markets they jump to the number one favorite to win the cup.
Yeah. So fascinating that the last time Giannis was unhappy, they go out, they make the Drew Holiday trade. And now once again, comments happen a couple weeks later. In arrive comes Damian Lillard, and yeah, it's Lillard, it's Middleton that they're hoping can be a better two-way presence than he showed last year. It's Bobby Portis, it's Brooke Lopez, and then you just try and fill in wing defenders like a Wesley Matthews, like a Jay Crowder, like a Joe Ingles, and kind of build out your roster from there. You're going to lose a little bit defensively, but Giannis and Brooke as the back line are just so formidable that you can give up a little bit more on the perimeter and you'll make up for it with that explosive firepower from Lillard. Not too much more to say on the Bucks side, just that if you are a fan, remember the feeling of the title 2 seasons ago and hope that they can recreate it with Giannis and Lillard. On the Portland side of things, what a deal that they were able to get. I mean, the best asset that they had seen out there was Hero and potentially OG Anunoby. You're able to get Drew Holiday, which my guess will be fetch you quite a pretty penny at the trade deadline to move him to a contender. And then you get DeAndre Ayton, which I believe is a stronger asset than Tyler Hero. That can get debated, but he was a guy who needed a fresh start. Was a pivotal guy on a finals team, can provide rim presence as well as some inside scoring and obviously that lob threat. He's one of the best mobile bigs, like the only 7-footer really who can move with people at the center position, both the absolute big fives and then your ones and twos. He can at least stay in front for 2 seconds, if anything, right? Rather than just being a pylon. And then, of course, you get the picks that ideally turn into something special a couple years down the road. Ayton's a much better fit than Hero with Scoot Henderson, with Anthony Simons. And I like what Portland was able to pick up out of this. Max, I don't know if you have any additional thoughts on the Trailblazers side of things.
Yeah, like Ayton is for the fit on the team. I think a little older than Hero, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. This team losing a lot of age and veteranness, the fresh start. I guess I can transition from that to like, how do you feel the Suns made out? Like I had to look twice because when I heard the things, like at first I thought, oh, they got Drew Holiday to help like at point guard as well.
They must be high on Keon Johnson as a prospect because the only playable player in that package right now is Grayson Allen, in my opinion. Yusuf Nurkic, so many injuries, is just such a defensive liability at this point that it feels like this was almost a salary dump and finally being able to get rid of DeAndre Ayton, who's been trying to get out for years.
Yeah, we'll see. There's maybe a little bit of a benefit of you reduce the number of cooks in the kitchen, you get more of a role player than a star player when they already are going to have so many issues running the offense and sharing the ball. So if Nurkic can stay healthy, I don't think that will go bad for the Suns. But 1-to-1, you take Ayton over Nurkic every day of the week at this point in their careers.
Yeah, it just feels like we're headed towards a situation where Kevin Durant in the starting or closing five is the only player on the floor who plays any sort of defense. And he wasn't a fan of that in Brooklyn, so I'm very fascinated to see how he's going to feel about it in Phoenix.
Yeah, so for the Bucks, a absolute win. It ramps up the pressure, and anything less than a NBA Finals appearance is going to be a disappointing season. Is my first thought. The Trailblazers make out like bandits and turn a situation where it seemed like they might be getting one player and one pick, uh, and the high on that player not necessarily that great. It There's a bit of a benefit in like rubbing a little salt in the wound in Miami. You get to send Lillard to the East where he can plague them more and just give like a nice little middle finger to the Heat for lowballing them all summer and feeling like the deal was in their back pocket. And I guess we wait and see on the Phoenix Suns. I have yet to see any takes that talk a big upside for them. Um, who knows?
Yeah. So, so shocking to kind of have this come out of the blue. Milwaukee was not a front runner, and we'll get even more time to digest this trade in the coming weeks. Of course, media day coming up in the near future, so they'll get to get all of that out of the way, and it gives a fresh start for Portland to really focus on their rebuild and their season ahead. Tough one for the Raptors. I had put into our notes that the Raptors were. Was this the master plan of Lillard, Giannis in Toronto? And unfortunately, it just happened to happen somewhere else.
I am curious. It feels like there has been a lot of negativity in certain media circles and attitudes towards Lillard and the approach he's taken this offseason. The Bucks Milwaukee being a more small market team, less consistent success. Giannis being such a fan favorite. I'm curious how much this pushes the needle in the other way. If that summer of headlines kind of just becomes a old memory hole thing, or some of the actions and comments and the going remembers. Because yeah, I'm still a little irked about some of the Toronto comments.
Yeah, well, we'll get plenty of chances to play him and prove him wrong.
I'm not excited about that personally.
No, definitely not. All right. Yeah. So that big trade out of the way really does leave just the Harden situation here towards the start of the NBA season, which we are rapidly approaching. The season that is in